And a lawyer is revealing new details about the alleged plot to steal Graceland, Elvis Presley's famous estate.
In a jaw-dropping discovery, the attic of Elvis Presley's iconic home, Graceland, has been sealed for nearly half a century. Now opened, the secrets of the king of rock and roll's personal life have been unveiled. But what surprising discoveries have been made? And how will it change the legendary singer's legacy? Join us as we unravel the incredible secrets. Graceland's secrets finally come to light. In 1957, a young and shining star named Elvis Presley was quickly becoming a name the whole world knew. At just 22 years old, he made a decision that would forever be part of his story. He bought a beautiful mansion on the edge of Memphis for $12,500. Though that amount seems small today, back then it was a fortune. Close to $1 million in today's world. The house was already called Graceland, and Elvis loved the name so much he decided to keep it just as it was. But Graceland wasn't just a house. To Elvis, it became a home filled with laughter, music, and love. The land stretched wide with barns, fields, and horses. One of the funniest parts of Graceland's story was Scatter, Elvis's mischievous pet chimpanzee. Scatter would wear silly outfits and play tricks on guests, leaving everyone laughing and wondering who really ruled the place, Elvis or his playful pet. In 1964, Elvis created a peaceful place on his property called the Meditation Garden. With blooming flowers, sparkling fountains, and tall white pillars, it became his favorite quiet corner. Here he would sit alone and think about his life, the people he loved, and the heavy weight of being called the king of rock and roll. After his passing in 1977, this very garden became his final resting place, a beautiful, peaceful spot where fans still visit to this day. Even though Graceland was open for visitors after Elvis passed away, there were places no one was allowed to see. The second floor, where his personal rooms were, remained locked to everyone, even famous visitors. But what made people even more curious was the attic above it. Nobody ever spoke about it. It was like it had disappeared from the house altogether. Fans wondered for years what might be hidden there and why the Presley family never mentioned it. Then, in 2024, Graceland made headlines again. A company claimed that Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter, had failed to pay back a loan. They tried to auction off Graceland, sending shockwaves through fans everywhere. Memphis locals and Elvis lovers around the world were heartbroken at the thought of losing such an important piece of history. Riley acted fast. She said the claims were fake and the papers had been forged. She believed it was a sneaky plan to steal her family's home. Right before the sale could happen, a Tennessee judge stepped in. He stopped the auction and declared that Graceland wasn't just private property. It was a piece of history that belonged to both the Presley family and the public. Strangely, no one from either side showed up in court that day, but the ruling stood, keeping Graceland safe for now. Still, a question lingered in people's hearts. What if the judge hadn't stepped in? What if someone else had bought Graceland and gone into that attic? What secrets would they have found? What had been locked away in silence for so long? Finally, in 2025, after nearly 50 years, the attic door opened. There was no big event, no reporters, just a quiet moment as a few record keepers stepped inside. The room looked frozen in time. Dusty boxes lined the walls, packed with treasures from Elvis's life. There were handwritten songs on napkins, old photographs no one had ever seen, and piles of unopened fan mail. Among the discoveries were love notes, sad letters, and childhood toys that once belonged to a boy who would grow up to rule the world of music. A worn leather jacket caught their eye, and inside its pocket was a small note that read, "Wear this when you want to disappear." It was a soft, private message from a man who sometimes wished to step away from the bright lights. Even deeper secrets came to light. These items painted a new picture of Elvis's final days. One more tender, more personal than anyone had known. The story of Graceland grew even richer, proving that while Elvis may be gone, his heart, his memories, and his mysteries live on forever. The letters were not all that was discovered. What was next revealed will leave you stunned. The hidden tapes of Elvis Presley. In the dusty, forgotten attic of Graceland, among old boxes covered in years of neglect, one small plain box quietly waited to be discovered. On its side, faded and barely readable, were the words, "Practice Sessions, 1976. No one had seen inside it for nearly 50 years. When the archivists carefully opened it, they found a surprise. A set of old reel-to-reel tapes, untouched and unknown until that moment. As they played the tapes, the room grew still with awe. These weren't polished songs made for crowds or albums. Instead, they captured something far more personal. It was Elvis, alone with his music. His voice echoed softly, singing quietly to himself. On the tapes, he explored gospel songs, gentle blues, and strange new sounds created by an early synthesizer. It was clear he was searching, trying to find a new sound, something fresh and different. But sadly, he never got the chance to share it with the world. One recording stood apart from the rest. It was Elvis singing Unchained Melody. No instruments, no backup singers, just his pure voice. His singing was full of feeling, sometimes trembling, sometimes breaking. It sounded like a goodbye, a final farewell. This was recorded not long before he passed away, making it feel like a secret musical letter from his heart. But that was just the beginning. Other boxes held stacks of letters from fans, letters never read until now. Soldiers far from home, hopeful young people, and families who had lost loved ones all wrote to him. One letter from 1976 begged Elvis to stop touring and take care of himself. No one knows if Elvis ever saw that letter, or if it was lost among the many things he never got to read. These tapes and letters tell a story we never heard before. It's a story full of joy and sadness, quiet moments and dreams. They remind us that behind the bright lights and fame, even the greatest stars have their private thoughts, their hopes, and their pains. Many people are wondering, how did he pass away? What events led to the end of this legend? Let's dive into it. The day the music fell silent. At the start of 1977, something had changed in Elvis Presley. The bright star who once lit up the world was slowly dimming. The young man who moved with energy and charm was no longer there. Instead, a heavier, slower Elvis struggled under the weight of his troubles, things many around him chose not to see. Fans and reporters began to notice the difference in his shows. What used to be exciting concerts now felt sad and heavy. Sometimes Elvis forgot the words to his own songs. His voice became unclear, and his eyes seemed lost. At one concert in Alexandria, Louisiana, he stayed on stage only a short time, unable to connect with the crowd. At other times, he couldn't even leave his hotel room. Even with canceled shows and changes, he kept trying to perform. Though his health was failing, Elvis never gave up on the music he loved. Fans worried, but their concern seemed to slip past him. Those closest to him saw a different side, a man often alone, reading spiritual books and thinking about the past. Sometimes he would share strange worries. His cousin Billy Smith remembered how Elvis would laugh over old stories, but more often drift into uneasy, paranoid thoughts. In June 1977, Elvis's last song released while he was alive, "Way Down," played on the radio. That same month, CBS filmed 2 of his live shows. Watching these, it was clear Elvis was not the same. In a performance in Omaha, his voice was weak. Sometimes he spoke the words instead of singing them. He struggled to hit notes that once came easily, and his famous energy was replaced by tiredness. Then came August 16, 1977, a day that the world will never forget. Elvis Presley, just 42 years old, was found unresponsive in the bathroom of his beloved Graceland. The home that once brought him peace had now become the place where he took his last breath. Even though he was rushed to the hospital, it was too late. The king of rock and roll was gone. At first, many said his death was caused by a heart problem called cardiac arrhythmia. But not everyone believed this simple answer. Friends, fans, and doctors sensed there was more to the story. Later, an autopsy revealed the truth. Elvis's body was filled with a dangerous mix of prescription medications. This painful discovery told a story of struggle, loneliness, and a search for relief from suffering. The doctor who said he was protecting Elvis, Dr. George Nicopolis, known to many as Dr. Nick, was very close to Elvis Presley during the last years of the King's life. From 1975 to 1977, he wrote over 8,000 prescriptions for Elvis. These were strong medicines, like painkillers and sleeping pills. People asked why Dr. Nick's name was on so many of Elvis's prescriptions, but he never denied it. Dr. Nick said he only wanted to help Elvis. He believed Elvis was already caught in addiction, and without the medicines he gave him, Elvis might have turned to even more dangerous medications. During a trial, Dr. Nick explained this to a jury, and they believed him. They decided he was not responsible for Elvis's death. But Dr. Nick's troubles did not end there. By 1980, he faced new accusations. This time, it wasn't just about Elvis. Other famous people, like Jerry Lee Lewis, were said to have gotten too many prescriptions from him. These were serious charges. Yet again, a jury thought Dr. Nick meant well and was trying to help. However, the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners saw things differently. They did not forgive him so easily. They took away his medical license for 3 months and put him on probation. Then, in 1995, after many warnings and chances, the board took away his license forever. Because he gave out so many prescriptions, people started calling him Dr. Feelgood. Years later, in 2020, a new idea came up. A book suggested that maybe Elvis's health problems were not just because of medications. It said Elvis could have had heart problems that ran in his family. If that is true, then maybe people have misunderstood what really happened to Elvis for a long time. It makes fans wonder, what other secrets are still hidden inside Graceland? Also, what was his farewell like? How well was he known to the world? Stick with us. The day the gates closed forever. When Elvis Presley passed away in August 1977, the whole world seemed to stop. News spread fast, and soon fans started pouring into Memphis. The very next day, nearly 100,000 people gathered outside Graceland, hoping for one last moment with their beloved king of rock and roll. It felt almost unreal that he was gone. The sadness in Memphis was deep and all around. Strangers hugged on the streets, tears falling as his songs played again and again on the radio. Losing Elvis was more than losing a star. It was like the end of an important chapter in many lives. After his death, stories and rumors started to spread everywhere. Some people said they saw Elvis at the airport, using secret names he sometimes used. Others swore they spotted him in small towns, grabbing fast food, or even singing on stage far away. Books were written, strange recordings appeared, and voices that sounded like Elvis popped up. Though many of these tales were proven false, the hope that Elvis might still be alive gave comfort to those who did not want to say goodbye. Inside Graceland, the Presley family prepared a special, heartfelt farewell. Elvis was dressed in a white suit and light blue shirt and laid in a beautiful casket for fans to see. Long lines of people came to pay their respects. On August 18th, a solemn funeral procession began, led by 17 shining white Cadillacs driving through Memphis. A grand goodbye to a man who touched so many hearts. Famous friends, family, and loved ones came to honor Elvis. Priscilla, Lisa Marie, and Vernon Presley stood quietly, holding back their grief. Elvis was laid to rest beside his mother Gladys at Forest Hill Cemetery, but peace did not last long. Just 2 nights later, a group of people tried to steal Elvis's body in a strange plan to get money. The plan failed, but it left the family shaken and worried. On top of that, a terrible accident happened near Graceland's gate. A car lost control and hit a group of grieving fans, eliminating 2 young women and injuring another. The sadness grew even heavier that week. Because of the theft attempt, Vernon Presley made a hard decision. He moved Elvis and his mother's bodies from the cemetery to a quiet, hidden spot in Graceland called the Meditation Garden, a peaceful place Elvis had created years before. This garden became their final resting place. Afterwards, Graceland changed. The gates were closed tight, rooms locked, and curtains drawn. One place stayed off limits: the attic. Even with the increased security, nobody knew why the attic was always locked and forbidden. But to really grasp the nature of the king of rock and roll, we have to go back in time to where it all started. What were the early years like? How did he get to become who we all know today? Let's dive into it. The little boy behind the legend. Before all the bright lights and roaring crowds, there was a young boy named Elvis. He was born on January 8, 1935, in a small town called Tupelo, Mississippi. His parents, Gladys and Vernon, were simple people with big hearts, but life wasn't always easy for them. Elvis was supposed to have a twin brother named Jesse Garin, but sadly, Jesse did not survive when they were born. After that, Elvis became the center of his parents' world, especially his mother's. The Presley family did not have much money. Vernon worked many different jobs just to keep food on the table. Sometimes, they had to rely on neighbors or government help to get by. In 1938, things got even harder when Vernon was sent to prison for check fraud, and they lost their home. But no matter what, Gladys made sure Elvis always felt loved and safe. As a child, Elvis was a quiet boy who kept to himself. He went to East Tupelo Consolidated School, where his teachers said he was just an average student. But there was something special inside him, a deep love for music that lit up his heart. The family often went to a small church where Elvis first heard gospel singing. The sound of the voices, the clapping, and the warm melodies made him feel joyful in a way nothing else could. When Elvis was 10 years old, he took part in a singing contest at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair. He sang Old Shep and earned 5th place. For him, that was a big deal. That same year, his mother gave him his very first guitar as a birthday gift. With help from his uncles and a kind pastor, Elvis began to learn how to play. He watched carefully, teaching himself quietly, too shy to play in front of others just yet. In 6th grade, Elvis switched schools and faced new troubles. Some kids teased him for liking what they called hillbilly music. Even though they made fun of him, Elvis did not give up. He found comfort in a radio show hosted by Mississippi Slim, a man who would become a friend and mentor. Slim gave Elvis his first chance to sing live on the radio. At first, Elvis was nervous and stumbled, but he kept going, and little by little, he found his confidence. As a teenager, Elvis's love for music grew stronger every day. His guitar was never far from his side, and he dreamed of becoming a star. In 1953, he saved enough money to record 2 songs as a special gift for his mother. When he stepped into the Memphis recording service, run by Sam Phillips, he gave everything he had. At first, no one noticed him, but Elvis did not stop trying. The next year, he came back to the studio again and again, even though bands he auditioned for said no. Even after he became famous as the King of Rock and Roll, the boy from Tupelo was still there, hidden beneath the glitter and fame. In the attic of Graceland, tucked away from the world, were small treasures that showed who Elvis really was. Alongside his flashy stage clothes and guitars were simple things: a teddy bear he loved, his mother's Bible with notes written inside, and a high school yearbook filled with kind messages from friends. These personal keepsakes weren't meant for fans or museums. They were for Elvis, a way to hold on to his past. When you look through the attic, the superstar fades away, and what's left is a small-town boy with big dreams. The old items give us a peek into his heart, his hopes, and the tough times he faced. Seeing these pieces of his life changes how we feel about the legend. It reminds us gently that before Elvis Presley became a king, he was simply a boy trying to find his place in the world. The boy who shook the world. Sam Phillips had a dream. He wanted to find a new voice, someone who could bring the heart and soul of the music he loved, especially the kind made by black artists, to more people everywhere. One day in June, Sam listened to a beautiful ballad called Without You, sung by Jimmy Sweeney. The song moved him, and right away, he thought of a young singer named Elvis. Maybe, just maybe, Elvis could sing it too. When Elvis stepped into the studio to try the song, It did not turn out the way Sam had hoped. It wasn't quite right, but even though it wasn't perfect, there was something special in Elvis's voice. Something warm, something exciting. Sam could feel it. So, instead of giving up, he asked Elvis to try a few more songs. Sam was impressed. He called in 2 local musicians, guitarist Scotty Moore and bassist Bill Black, to join Elvis. They planned a recording session at Sun Studio on the evening of July 5, 1954. For hours, nothing amazing happened. The room felt quiet and dull. It seemed like they might pack up and leave for the night. But then, something magical happened. Elvis suddenly started playing an old blues song called "That's All Right." His voice was full of energy, and he moved around the room singing with joy. Bill quickly grabbed his bass and joined in, while Scotty picked up his guitar and strummed along. The room came alive with music. It was fun, fresh, and completely unexpected. Sam knew he had found the magic he'd been searching for. Without wasting a second, he hit the record button and captured that wonderful moment. Just 3 days after recording it, "That's All Right" was playing on the radio in Memphis, thanks to a popular DJ named Dewey Phillips. People went wild. The phone lines lit up as listeners called over and over, begging to hear the song again. Many were curious about the singer. Some even wondered if Elvis might be black because of the soulful way he sang. Dewey cleared up the rumors by asking Elvis on air which high school he went to. The success of "That's All Right" gave Elvis and his band new confidence. They decided to try a bluegrass tune next, "Blue Moon of Kentucky." They added their own twist, playing it faster and using an echo effect that made it sound completely new. Sam knew right away they had something special again. He released a record with "That's All Right" on one side and "Blue Moon of Kentucky" on the other. On July 17, 1954, the 3 of them performed live for the first time at a place called the Bon Air. In the weeks that followed, they played at other venues like Overton Park Shell, where country star Slim Whitman was the main attraction. That night, Elvis was nervous. He shifted his legs and shuffled his feet as he sang, which made his wide-legged pants swing around. The young women in the audience couldn't get enough. They screamed and cheered louder with every move he made. Scotty later said those moves weren't planned at all, but once Elvis noticed how the crowd reacted, he kept doing them, adding a little extra each time. Before long, Scotty and Bill quit their old band to play with Elvis full-time. A DJ and promoter named Bob Neal became their manager. Between August and October, they performed regularly at a local spot called the Eagle's Nest. Teenagers packed the place to see Elvis, and when the house band returned to the stage, many of them lost interest and left. Elvis was beginning to feel more comfortable, and his performances grew bolder and more exciting. Elvis returned to Sun Studio to record more songs. On October 2, 1954, he performed at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville for the very first and only time. The managers there weren't impressed. They said Elvis wasn't the right fit for their style of music, but Elvis did not let that stop him. In 1956, everything changed. Elvis signed with RCA Victor and went to Nashville to record with his regular bandmates, Scotty, Bill, and new drummer DJ Fontana. They were joined by famous guitarist Chet Atkins and some background singers. Together they recorded Heartbreak Hotel, a sad but powerful song. When it was released in January, it became Elvis's first big hit across the country. Soon after, Elvis made his television debut on a show called Stage Show on CBS. In just 2 months, he appeared on the show 6 times. After his first performance, he stayed in New York to record more songs, including Blue Suede Shoes, a lively tune originally written by Carl Perkins. In February, another one of Elvis's songs, "I Forgot to Remember to Forget," topped the country music chart. Around this time, Bob Neal's contract ended, and a new manager stepped in, Colonel Tom Parker, a man who would help guide Elvis's career for years to come. On March 23, 1956, RCA released Elvis's very first album. It was a mix of country, pop, and rhythm, and blues. Some people even said Elvis's version of Blue Suede Shoes was better than the original. The album cover showed Elvis grinning as he played his guitar on stage, and it quickly became an image that symbolized a new, exciting chapter in American music. The album made history by becoming the first rock and roll record to reach the #1 spot on the Billboard charts, staying there for 10 straight weeks. Let's look at the legacy left for the world by Elvis, the legend that lives on. Elvis Presley was more than just a singer. He was magic. The moment he stepped on stage, you could feel something special in the air. His voice, his moves, and the way he carried himself could turn an ordinary night into something people would never forget. When Elvis performed, the crowd would go wild. Fans screamed, cried, and some even fainted from excitement. The energy in the room would rise the second he opened his mouth to sing. It got so intense at times that the National Guard had to be called in to keep things under control. Even after the show was over, people couldn't stop talking about him. He left a mark on everyone he met. In October, Elvis released his second album with RCA Victor, simply called Elvis. Just like before, it shot straight to #1. This album was extra special to him because it included a song called Old Shep. Elvis had first sung that song as a little boy in a talent contest back in 1945. His piano playing on the track wasn't perfect, but that did not matter. What mattered was the feeling in his voice. Elvis sang with his heart, and people could feel it. That's what made him stand out. He wasn't about perfection. He was about emotion, honesty, and connecting with his fans. Over the years, Elvis won many awards. He earned 3 Grammy Awards, all for his gospel music, which showed how deeply he loved those songs, even though he was known as the king of rock and roll. At just 36 years old, he received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, an honor usually given to much older artists. Elvis also became part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame, and the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. The Guinness World Records still lists him as the best-selling solo artist of all time. Elvis did not just conquer music. He made a big name for himself in movies and television, too. He starred in many films and was praised for his natural charm and acting skills. On TV, he became the highest-paid performer of his time, and his specials pulled in huge audiences. No matter how many years went by, people never stopped loving Elvis. Even after he passed away, his legend lived on. In 2018, Elvis was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the highest honors a person can receive in America. It proved once again that his impact went far beyond music. Now, even in 2025, the world is still learning new things about Elvis. At his famous home, Graceland, old letters, tapes, and personal treasures are being discovered in dusty attics and forgotten rooms. These little pieces of history tell stories about a kind, caring, and sometimes lonely man. A man who quietly helped people while carrying the heavy weight of fame. For some fans, these discoveries bring comfort, making them feel even closer to the star they've loved for so long. For others, it adds to the mystery. If secrets like these stayed hidden for nearly 50 years, what else might be waiting to be found? What untold stories are still hiding in the corners of Graceland? Elvis Presley may have left the stage, but his spirit, his music, and his legend will live forever. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.